3 spine-chilling true horror tales revealed, sinister secrets of the cursed and haunted night. The night was unusually still in Maple Grove, Colorado, where shadows seemed to stretch and whisper secrets. Sarah, a devoted night nurse and single mother of 2, felt that unmistakable chill running down her spine as she parked her car under the flickering streetlight. After another grueling shift, her heart raced. This wasn't just fatigue, something felt wrong. Wherever she looked, the familiar warmth of her cookie-cutter suburb had transformed into an eerie, hollow shell of its former self. Ghostly silence filled the air, where just hours before, laughter and chatter had spilled from open doors. Sarah tightened her grip on her bag, her mind flooded with unwelcome thoughts. Wasn't this supposed to be home, a sanctuary for her kids? Ella and Max needed their mother. She hurried inside, a tingle of apprehension trailing her every step. "Mommy!" Ella's excited voice interrupted her thoughts as the door slammed shut behind them. But then silence. As if a blanket had smothered her children's playful giggles, they vanished into the shadows. Ella? Max? Panic clawed at her throat as she searched room after room, her heart pounding in time with her racing thoughts. Minutes passed like hours, stretching her nerves taut. Finally, she spotted Ella peering out the window, her little finger pointing toward something. "Look, Mommy!" A shadow. It wasn't much a harmless figment of a child's imagination, at least that was what Sarah wanted to believe. But even as she brushed it off, the creeping dread settled over her soul like a suffocating fog. "Mommy, it was big and dark," Ella insisted. Just then, a whisper grazed the edge of Sarah's awareness, brushing past her front door like an icy breath, sending shivers cascading down her spine. A candle flickered in the gloomy living room, shadows dancing mockingly across the walls. This was no ordinary night. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the hours trudged on, her mind spiraling further into paranoia, Sarah sought reassurance from local authorities. But when she dialed the police, their dismissive tone echoed back. Trivial verbal tussles and neighborhood squabbles took priority over her mounting anxiety. "You must be imagining things," they chuckled. But wasn't that what they all thought? As night unveiled its darkest side, strange occurrences began to multiply. Whispers lingered at the edges of her sanity, reflections in windows morphed into ghostly figures, a grisly dance of shadows that seemed to seek refuge in her home. With each passing moment, the atmosphere grew thicker, her breaths shallow and confined. She felt the unsettling sensation of being watched, 1,000 invisible eyes boring into her. Fear wrapped around her heart like a vice, squeezing tighter with each echoing creak of the floorboards. A thud rattled the basement door, solid and menacing. Gripped by dread, Sarah clutched a kitchen knife, descending the stairs into the darkness. Obscured by dust and time, what awaited her was more chilling than she could have ever anticipated. Letters, old and sepia-stained, clues to a sinister past that intertwined her family with the very folklore that draped Maple Grove like a lurking shadow. Staring into the abyss of her lineage, she felt the weight of mysteries ready to pull her in. What horrors lay hidden within her seemingly perfect suburb? Would she be the protector she vowed to be, or did the key to her family's unraveling lurk closer than she ever imagined? The basement door creaked behind her, the air thick with a bone-chilling question that lingered, unanswered and heavy: who would ultimately pay the price for knowledge that could shatter their fragile world? The basement smelled of mold and decay, like a forgotten tomb buried beneath layers of neglect. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest, echoing the unsteady rhythm of dread as she flicked the flashlight down the dim, cluttered space. Shadows danced like specters, retreating and re-emerging with each turn of her handheld light. The letters she had discovered lay strewn across a table, woven into a tapestry of horror she could barely fathom. "Mommy?" Ella's voice shattered the oppressive silence, trembling with fear. Where was the innocence in her voice just moments ago? Panic surged through Sarah, blurring the edges of her vision as she rushed back toward the stairs. "Ella, stay close," she called, desperately hoping her daughter was still near. But the living room was empty now, the flickering candle extinguished. Sarah's gut twisted in despair. The home had transformed into an alien landscape where safety had evaporated into thin air. The house groaned, a sound so heavy with malevolence it vibrated through the walls. Perhaps it was the house, no, the land trying to warn her, to call upon the ancient warnings writ into the very soil of Maple Grove. The whispers grew louder, forming words that twisted her thoughts. "Leave, it's not safe." Each syllable felt like an icy hand gripping her throat. But the determination to protect her children fueled her courage. She couldn't leave them behind. "Max." "Ella." Her voice cracked, desperation clawing at her insides. Suddenly, from the kitchen came the sound of little feet, soft and almost too gentle for her heart's comfort. The shadow of a figure danced just out of reach, moving in a way that made her stomach drop. "Mommy. Come look." Sarah felt her breath hitch as she approached, only to halt, her senses prickling with alarm. She hesitated at the doorway, her heart aching with dread. "What are you looking at, sweetheart?" "It's outside." Ella's voice was wild, almost entranced. Sarah's skin prickled, sensing the danger in the unseen. "The shadow's back. It's waiting." The chill in the air froze her blood. The basement's sinister grip dug deep into her bones, but she felt drawn to that door, compelled to step over the threshold and face whatever lurked beyond. She approached cautiously, her knife held like a flimsy lifeline. The door creaked ajar, revealing a scene so distorted she couldn't process it. Outside, darkness swirled, a thick mass of shadows writhing like a living being. And in the very center stood a figure tall and menacing, its face obscured by an eternal night that radiated malice. A low rumble shook the foundation, and something primal within Sarah screamed at her to run. She jerked back, finding Ella unfazed by her mother's terror, eyes wide and entranced. "Mommy, he's waiting for you." "Ella, no." Sarah lunged, but the moment shattered as the figure twisted, morphing into something grotesque, a reflection of her own insecurities. All the fears she had tried to bury rushed to the surface, pulling her into a vortex of despair. The door slammed shut, darkness enveloping her. An insidious laugh echoed, chilling her to the core. "You wanted to know the truth, didn't you?" The voice resonated all around her, deeper and more menacing than she could have ever imagined. In that moment, Sarah realized the truth wasn't just out there. It was rooted within her, connected to everything she loved. Desire for safety had woven a fragile bond, and now it began to unravel. With every minute she hesitated, the darkness crept ever closer. Suddenly a scream. It was Ella. A scream so haunting it seemed to choke the very air from Sarah's lungs. She bolt upright, heart racing, and flung open the door. The house felt alive with malevolence, whispering secrets too sinister to decipher. What price would she pay to save her children and herself? In that frantic moment, a part of her wondered if it was already too late, and out on the horizon, a storm began to brew, foretelling horrors yet to come. What did she truly awaken in the shadows, and would she be able to confront the nightmares that sought to consume her? The door swung open, and Sarah stumbled into the living room, her heart racing like a freight train. The air hung heavy, thick with an ominous stillness that made her skin crawl. "Ella!" She called again, but her voice barely pierced the silence. In the far corner, the shadows clung longer, twisting into forms that seemed to groan against the walls. A whisper echoed in the corners of her mind, a low murmur that grew louder, almost mocking her desperation. She could feel its sinister fingers curling around her thoughts, tightening like a vice. "Mommy!" Ella's voice floated from upstairs, fragile and distant, yet urgent. Panic rippled through Sarah. She had to find her daughter. "I'm coming!" she shouted, Racing up the creaking staircase, each step sagging under the weight of fear, the attic door stood ajar at the end of the hallway, pale light spilling from the gap like fingers beckoning her in. Sarah hesitated, an instinct to flee pricking at her heart, but the thought of Ella alone drove her forward. Inside, the space felt vast and empty, the dusty air hanging like a shroud. And then she saw it. A shape hovered near the window, shrouded in shadows, its form twitching with an unnatural energy. Ella. Sarah's voice trembled, but before she could move closer, the figure jerked around, revealing a serpentine grin that cracked open like a bad dream. It wasn't Ella. It was the shadow. The eyes, two hollow voids, seemed to reach out, sucking the light from the room. Leave her alone. Sarah shouted, gripping the handle of her knife, heart racing. The shadow twisted, growing larger, a grotesque mass that absorbed all around it. Why do you resist? It hissed, voice oily and slithering, you know what needs to happen. Sarah felt bile rise in her throat. What are you? She spat, desperate for answers. I am the truth, it sneered, and the truth will set you free or destroy you. Ella's small frame staggered into view behind the shadow, wide-eyed, lips trembling. Mommy, it wants to take you away, run. Sarah screamed, lunging forward. The moment was fleeting, panic blurring the edges as she grabbed Ella's hand. But the shadow erupted, tendrils snaking toward them. A surge of fury propelled Sarah, she flung herself and Ella back, off the edge of the dark's reach. The grip of the nightmare faded, and for a fraction of a second, hope flared in her chest. We just need to get out. This way. They turned to flee, racing down the stairs, but another sinister laugh echoed through the halls, a gurgling of sheer malice that made Sarah falter. You can't escape your fate, Sarah. The moment froze, each heartbeat like thunder in her ears. The soft padding of Ella's feet behind her grew distant, her motherly instincts screaming that something was wrong. Ella. She cried desperately, spinning around to face the enveloping darkness. And that's when she realized the air had grown cold. Too cold. Mommy, it's trying to take us. Ella's voice quivered, piercing the gloom, but where Ella stood, shadows gathered like a dark fog thickening around her, blurring her outline. Fear deepened within Sarah as she lunged toward her daughter, but the shadows surged, pulling Ella further away. Never. Sarah shouted, but the shadows were an ocean now, dragging her child into a whirlpool of darkness. Mommy. Ella's voice faded, swallowed by the suffocating gloom. And suddenly, a realization struck. This wasn't merely an evil lurking in the corners of a house. This was a festival of fears, a temple of nightmares. If she didn't face it, truly face it, it would consume them all. With resolve hardening in her heart, Sarah took a step forward. You want the truth? Fine. Show me. The laughter faded momentarily, replaced by a silence more terrifying than the noise. A faint light flickered nearby, welcoming yet distant. What truth awaited her when she stepped into the light? Would it be salvation, or would it tighten the grip of darkness around her and Ella forever? The light grew brighter, yet it felt more like a warning than an invitation. Shadows twisted at its edges, darkening the far corners of the attic, whispering promises of despair. Sarah's heart thundered as she stepped forward, her breath hitching in her throat. Ella. She called again, each syllable slicing through the stillness with desperation. The room seemed to pulse with an icy darkness, clenching and expanding like something alive, lurking just out of sight. The faint light flickered again, illuminating the worn, wooden floorboards, each creak sounding like a scream. The temperature dropped further, biting into her skin, but she pressed on. She needed to break through the fog of terror clouding her mind. Where are you, my baby? Silence answered, thickening the air with dread. She felt the weight of 1,000 eyes watching her, the shadows whispering secrets in a language she couldn't understand. As she moved toward the light, it flickered once more, and in that heartbeat, shadows pulled back as if holding their breath. Just for a moment, she glimpsed a figure, a girl, no older than 7, her face hidden beneath a mass of tangled hair, staring mutely at Sarah. And then she was gone, swallowed by darkness. "Is that you, Ella?" Sarah's panic-stricken voice quavered, dread coiling tight in her chest. "It's hungry," a disembodied voice hissed, emanating from the shadows. "It needs you, Sarah, to feed its hunger." Chills raced down Sarah's spine. Images flashed in her mind, their past, moments of joy, laughter in the sunlit garden, but now all twisted together with dread. This wasn't just about Ella. The truth was deeper, darker. "Get out!" Sarah shouted, the strength of her voice echoing through the attic. She gripped the knife tight, knowing that something far worse than mere shadows lay in wait. The voice that responded was softer now, seductive as it slithered around her thoughts, teasing memories of long-buried guilt and shame. "It won't let you leave, you know why you deserve to suffer, shut up," she cried, shaking her head as if trying to dispel thoughts, memories, words. But they clawed at her, sinking into her consciousness. Each syllable weighed heavy, a reminder of her failures, her fears. Fury surged through her, she wouldn't give in. Not now. She needed to find Ella, to reclaim her from the depths of this nightmare. Summoning every ounce of defiance, she took another step towards the flickering light. "Show me," she commanded, voice steadying. The shadows rippled, a storm of darkness gathering, swirling around her like a tempest. Then silence fell, a heavy, suffocating silence. As if answering her call, a figure emerged from the light. It was Ella, standing bewildered, bathed in a golden glow that seemed to push back the encroaching darkness. But as Sarah rushed forward, the shadows recoiled, lunging toward Ella with terrifying speed. "Mommy!" Ella cried out, her small hands reaching for Sarah, but the dark tendrils surged again, twisting and curling around Ella, pulling her back. "No!" Sarah screamed, her heart racing wildly. With every ounce of strength she could muster, she forced her way through the advancing shadows, arms outstretched, ready to break their grip once and for all. The shadows shrieked, a blend of despair and rage, and for a second, it felt like time stopped and eternity stretched between them. If she didn't reach Ella, all would be lost. And then, in a cacophony of despairing howls, the shadow tapestry unraveled as the light surged forward, dissipating the dark like mist under the morning sun, but the light wasn't a beacon of hope. It split the room too, revealing glimpses of a past not yet shown, a dark truth lurking beneath the surface, something far more terrifying than they could imagine. "Mommy, look out!" Ella screamed. Something ancient and monstrous stirred behind the remnants of shadows, an unfathomable darkness with a face that could chill even the bravest of hearts. "Remember, Sarah?" It rasped, its voice slithering through the air, each word a dagger to her heart. "You invited me in suddenly, Sarah. Understood?" There was no escape from this truth. It had been here all along. Would she fight, or was this the moment she finally shattered under the weight of her own darkness? As horror flooded her senses, she felt the ground beneath her tremble. She had to decide, and fast. What sacrifices would she make to save her child? And more terrifying, what would the truth demand from her? The shadows shivered as the ancient voice settled into the corners of the attic, filling the air with a palpable dread. Sarah's breath quickened, panic clawing at her consciousness. The weight of past regrets pressed on her shoulders like a stone. Could she face the monster behind the truth? Mommy, Ella's voice was barely a whisper, drenched in fear. The little girl struggled against the tendrils that coiled around her. They pulsed like a living thing, feeding off the terror that filled the room. "Let her go!" Sarah screamed, desperation spilling out of her, each word a wild, frantic plea. She took a step closer, the shadows recoiling slightly as if assessing her. They knew her fears, her guilt. They wrapped tighter around Ella, tightening the grip just enough to elicit a gasp from the girl. "Such a shame," the darkness hissed, its voice echoing with centuries-old malice. "You thought you could hide from what you truly are. It wasn't just attacking, it was taunting. Each word twisted like a knife in Sarah's gut, forcing her to remember all the moments she tried to bury her failures as a mother, her flaws as a human. Don't listen. She shouted, driven by both fear and anger. She lunged at the shadows, knife held high, trembling in her grip. Was that enough? Did she even stand a chance? But the moment she drew near, the shadows retaliated viciously, swirling around her limbs, pinning her in place. A roar erupted from the darkness, swirling wind and flickering light merging into chaos. Do you think you can save her? The voice laughed, a wicked sound that echoed against the wooden beams, reverberating through Sarah's bones. How can you protect anyone when you couldn't protect yourself? With each taunt, memories surged from the depths of her mind, the birthday party that went wrong, the fight with Ella that ended in silence, the ill-fated decisions that garnered too many risks. Regret poisoned her strength, arriving at every corner of her heart and sapping her resolve. Listen to me, Sarah. Ella's voice broke through the haze, full of defiance. I'm not afraid. We can fight it together. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. I want to let it take you. She cried, gripping the knife tighter, her knuckles white. Drawing courage from her child, she pushed back against the shadows. But the air grew thick and heavy. The shadows condensed, pressing against Sarah, growing denser, darker. Now, it felt as if they were whispering to her, their multitude of voices encroached upon her thoughts. You are nothing. You wished for this, you deserved it, shut up. She shouted again, a fierce roar emerging from her throat as she yanked the knife upwards, a desperate slice through the thickening gloom. You have no control over me. A bright flash erupted in front of her, an explosion of light shattering the encroaching darkness. The shadows hissed and twisted, recoiling violently. Mommy! Keep going. Ella urged, her voice fierce even amidst her capture, her little hands clawing against the tendrils binding her. The moment provided a flicker of hope, igniting the embers of Sarah's resolve. With forward momentum, she advanced, the knife glinting, determination boiling in her veins. But dread lurked just behind, a reminder that sometimes darkness returns with more ferocity. The pit in her stomach twisted, shards of red rage and black despair weaving an intricate tapestry of fear. Foolish girl, the voice rasped, and the shadows rippled. They twisted around Sarah, forming shapes that echoed her worst nightmares. Each figure bore her sins, her untouched shame. They mocked her, weaving tales of pain and loss. Suddenly, everything cascaded into chaos again. The shadows lunged at her, a wave of darkness surging like an angry tide. Get away from her! Sarah screamed, the bright flash fading, and her resolve nearly slipping. Just as her heart raced further into despair, she reached deep within herself for one last push, but was it enough? Could she really face her deepest fears, one last time, and tear through the abyss? Come to me, Sarah. It whispered, tempting her with knowledge. It knew of her past, her choices, her regrets. But would what it demanded be the ultimate sacrifice? The world shifted oddly in her mind. Reality blurred, twisting with an unseen thread. She could almost feel Ella slipping away. A grim realization struck. Could she ever escape this hell? In the shadows, they stirred, and she felt the ground tremble beneath her feet, an echo of a truth that could shatter the very foundation of her world. What would she truly sacrifice to save her child? And as dread settled over her heart, the final tendril of shadow, sharp as a knife, threatened to cut that bond forever. Sarah's heart thudded violently in her chest, the sound echoing like a war drum in the vast emptiness of the attic. She could feel the oppressive weight of fear bearing down on her, a suffocating blanket of despair. The shadows pulsed, swirling with a life of their own, taunting her with the burdens of the past. Mommy! Ella cried again, her voice a fragile thread caught in the tempest. Help me! With newfound determination, Sarah fought against the tendrils that held her. It was as if the air crackled with tension, the shadows vibrating with a dark energy that threatened to overwhelm her. Let her go! She screamed again, channeling every ounce of fury into her voice. Anger surged within her, a primal response to protect her child. As if sensing her fury, the shadows reacted violently, shrinking back momentarily before surging forward with renewed rage. You think you can save her? The voice hissed, cold and menacing. You are but a vessel of your failures. What can you give that will make a difference? I'll give anything. Sarah yelled, desperation flooding her words. Just let her go. For an instant, the shadows hesitated, flickering as if contemplating her plea. In that fleeting moment, Sarah reached for the core of her being, her love for Ella, and for the first time, she saw a glimmer of light deep within the shadows. See the truth, Sarah, the darkness taunted, revealing echoes of her past on its twisted surface. Faces she wished she could forget flashed by the friends she hurt, the chances she squandered. Each image was a dagger, piercing her confidence as the monster sought to break her, but that glimmer flickered brighter, a beacon of hope cutting through the despair. Ella! Sarah shouted fiercely, grounding herself in her daughter's strength. Stay with me. I'm coming. Instinctively, she brandished the knife, its blade gleaming like a sliver of moonlight breaking through the clouds. With every ounce of power she could muster, Sarah lunged forward, the knife slicing through the air. The obsidian tendrils shrieked in fury, recoiling from the light. Mommy, hurry! Ella cried, fighting against the constraining darkness. Just as the shadows began to pull back, relief crashed into horror. Grim realizations wrapped around her heart like cold fingers. Saving Ella meant confronting the darkness within herself. The looming shadow figures transformed into grotesque reflections of her failed dreams and regrets, grotesque mirrors that matched every wrongdoing. Face us! They roared, a cacophony of voices rising, each one infused with Sarah's guilt and fear. You cannot escape us. I will fight you. She roared defiantly, slicing again into the pulsating darkness. There was a pop, a surge of light. Shadows squealed, charred against the brightness. But just as she felt the tide of victory swell, the voice morphed into something more sinister, vibrating through her very bones. What is your truth, Sarah? Would you sacrifice your own being to save what you love? Or will you abandon her to the abyss? Confusion and fear spiraled within her, nearly paralyzing. She staggered, the weight of that question suffocating. Could she condemn herself all over again for a chance to save Ella? Mommy, don't listen. Ella's voice rang out, filled with desperation. Sarah could barely hear it over the rush of darkness swirling around her, reeling. Why not just let go? The shadows whispered sweetly, the suggestion curling around Sarah's brain like smoke. You know the truth. You can't protect her. It's easier to join us. No. Sarah screamed, shaking her head violently as memories threatened to drown her. Never. With a final burst of willpower, she plunged the knife deeper, praying it would sever the twisted bond before her daughter was lost forever. A blinding flash erupted again, expanding and swallowing the darkness whole. The room shuddered, the creaking floorboards screeching in protest, and the shadows began to dissolve, howling in rage. But just before the light consumed everything, a chilling laugh echoed through the chaos, wrapping around Sarah's heart, seeping into her soul. Your sacrifice is just the beginning. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the remnants of darkness slipped away, leaving shadows in their wake. The attic transformed into a surreal battleground, flickering lights casting a strange dance of hope and despair. What lay in wait beyond? Would it be salvation, or had she ignited something far more dangerous? Mommy! Ella cried, the urgency in her voice snapping Sarah back to the moment. But the darkness lingered, whispering promises of nightmares yet to come. Sarah staggered, her heart racing as the last remnants of shadow shrieked and dissipated. The attic's eerie glow flickered, leaving behind a sickly calm, but the danger was far from over. Ella! She gasped, forcing herself to focus on her daughter. The little girl was still trapped within the pale remnants of darkness, translucent and trembling. Mommy! Ella's voice quaked, her small frame flickering like an old film reel, barely tethered to existence. I can't hold on much longer, no. Panic seized Sarah as she lunged forward, her fingers grazing Ella's. A jolt of cold shot through her, splitting the warmth of her resolve. A vision overtook her. A haunted figure loomed just behind Ella, casting an elongated shadow across the attic floor. Sarah's breath hitched. It was the silhouette of someone she loved once, someone lost. "Stay with me!" Sarah screamed, channeling every ounce of love she could muster. But as she grasped at the light still flickering within the shadows, darkness seeped back, creeping with intent. "You can't have her. You gave everything already, Sarah," the shadow hissed, its voice slick and cruel. "You think love can save her? It's a mere illusion." "No!" she cried, waving the knife, the blade catching the dim light like a promise. It pulsed with the energy of her resolve, but doubt crept in. The shadows were thickening, creeping closer, as if they were alive, waiting for a moment of weakness. "That's right. Remember your failures, remember every time you messed up," the voice coiled around her, suffocating and intimate. "Use it, feed us with your guilt." Each haunting echo of her life sliced through Sarah like shards of ice, drawing forth every moment of regret. Lost opportunities, broken promises, each image a dagger, each memory seeping strength from her resolve. "Mommy!" Ella's wail pierced through, breaking the haze. "Please, I believe in you." With that simple sentence, a spark ignited in Sarah. Ella's faith was the last lifeline, pulling her back from the brink of surrender. "I will get you out. I promise." The shadows writhed, sensing her resurgence. They recoiled, hissing, squawking in protest. Sarah plunged forward again, slicing through the darkness with the knife that felt like a part of her soul. Each cut tore into the despair that threatened to swallow them whole. Light erupted, the attic transformed into blinding brilliance as the shadows lashed out, screeching and flailing, desperately trying to cling to their prey. "Clever girl." The voice sneered, but now it was laced with panic. "You think you can break the bond? You have only begun to understand the darkness you face." The walls began to shift, ripping back to reveal a space that suffocated her, cold, desolate, filled with whispers of regret and despair. Pulsating shadows surged once more, eager to reclaim the fight. And just as the last thread of fear threatened to snap Sarah's concentration, Ella's voice barked back, firm and unwavering. "Focus on me, Mommy." Sarah's heart surged with conviction. She surged forward, eyes locked on her daughter, and the knife struck true. A sound like shattering glass rang out, followed by a churning silence. The shadows recoiled, merging into a swirling abyss that wrenched Ella back in. "No!" Sarah screamed, diving toward her daughter. But as her hands reached for Ella, the darkness enveloped them both, dragging them into a spiral of nothingness, heart-wrenching and terrifying. Then, in that all-consuming dark, Sarah heard the faint sound of Giggle's childish laughter echoing like memories of a long-lost past, cheerful yet haunting. The darkness wasn't just a collection of fears, it was something far more personal. "Mommy, you don't understand." Ella's voice wove through the shadows, distorted yet bright. "It's not just about saving me." Just then, a vision of the attic flipped before her eyes, only now the shadows weren't the sinister things from before. They mirrored her deepest fears and desires. "Mommy," Ella whispered, but it felt more like a secret, a revelation. What new horrors were lurking just below the surface of Sarah's understanding? What did Ella know? The shadows pulsated, the air thickening with adrenaline and tension. "Ella! What are you trying to say?" The laughter rang out again, this time echoing with the promise of darkness. "What are we really saving? Who have we become?" As the reality shifted, Sarah realized they were teetering on the edge of something far more sinister than she had anticipated. The darkness closed in tighter, embracing them in its chilling grip, whispering promises of terror yet unleashed. The abyss twisted around them, a suffocating embrace of shadows that felt both alive and insidious. Heart pounding, Sarah struggled against the cold, creeping dread that seeped into her bones. She wanted to scream, to fight, but what was there to fight against when everything felt so unreal? Mommy Ella's voice broke through the swirling chaos, delicate yet charged with urgency. Listen to me. It's not what you think. What do you mean? Sarah choked, her voice fraying into panic. What do you know? We're in here together, and I can feel what you're feeling, Ella whispered, her form flickering like a candle in the dark. Your fears are wrapping around my heart. The way Ella spoke sent a shiver cascading down Sarah's spine. Hadn't she fought against this very darkness for the sake of her daughter? No, Ella. This is about saving you. I want to let them take you from me. Ella giggled again, a sound both charming and terrifying, twisting the air with childlike delight. But you see. They can't take me, they are parts of you. Terror clawed at Sarah's throat. The shadows pulsed around them, caressing her limbs with their chilling tendrils. Each whisper in the dark carried her own regrets, a morbid melody of sorrow. I don't want to be a part of this. The shadows laughed in response, a cacophony of harsh whispers sharpening around her. You wanted to hide, didn't you? To bury your guilt beneath the floorboards of your mind. You thought love could shield her from your truth. Reality began to splinter, and Sarah felt the ground beneath her dissolve. Vivid flashes of her life erupted before her, every tear shed, every moment lost, every nightmare buried. Shadows of people she had let down, trapped in the net of her failures, emerged from the dark. Faces twisted, small gasps echoing like distant thunder, beckoning her to remember Mommy. Don't listen. They're lying. Ella's plea cut through the fog, but it was distorted, a heart-wrenching scream beneath layers of confusion. No. You don't understand. Sarah cried, struggling to keep her grip on reality as fragments of the past clawed for her attention, desperate to pull her into their tide of despair. I need to save you first. With every ounce of will, Sarah thrust herself toward the shadowy tendrils, swinging the knife wildly, each swing fueled by desperation. Light flared, illuminating Ella's frightened eyes while darkness snarled and lunged. Mother Ella's voice faded into the chaos, her figure flickering ominously. See beyond the shadows then, with a sudden snap, a realization hit Sarah like a freight train. Ella had always been the light that pierced the darkness, but the bond they shared was forged in not just love but also in pain and secrets. Enough. Sarah screamed, her sanity teetering. I will not lose you, not to this. The shadows recoiled, screeching like tortured souls, spitting out twisted warnings of despair. But Sarah had to tear through the lies and remind herself, she was strong, and so was Ella. Presence of darkness, I reject you. I choose my daughter. I choose the truth. As those words shattered the silence, a crack of blinding light erupted through the space, pushing back the shadows, revealing flickering images of better times, laughter, warmth, a life not yet lost, but even as she fought, the darkness swirled back, a mocking figure slipping into view. You think you can break this cycle, but you've only begun to grasp the horror that awaits you. Sarah trembled as the shadow stretched toward Ella. Mommy, please. It's so dark. I can't hold on. Screams pierced the air again, driving through her like nails. Your fears will come rushing back, Sarah, and then you will truly know what it means to be lost. The smirk of the shadow eyes filled with malice, a familiar echo of past regrets. As Sarah stood there, shadows dancing at her feet, fear constricted around her heart. What if all she had done was feed this darkness with every attempt to save what was already gone? Tension thickened, thoughts spiraling, as she faced the most chilling question of all, could she trust her own memories? What if the truth was far darker than anything the abyss could unveil? The shadows closed in once more, laughter echoing, and a new horror loomed, just beyond her reach. The ground trembled violently beneath Sarah, the abyss rumbling like an angry beast. Ella's frightened figure flickered ever more faintly, threatened by an onslaught of creeping obsidian shadows. Each second felt like a lifetime, as Sarah fought against an unseen grip, trying to break free from the tightening ribbon of darkness that coiled around her. "Mommy, they won't stop!" Ella cried, her voice blending with the cacophony of whispers, chilling the air around them. "You have to believe me. They'll take you too. Just trust me." Sarah shouted, her heart racing as she wielded the knife like a lifeline. Its blade glinted in the half-light, a fleeting symbol of hope. But what hope could she possibly have against such insidious entities born from her own despair? In a moment of clarity, Sarah realized this wasn't merely a battle of will, it was a reckoning. Each shadow taunted her with memories she had locked away, every harsh word, the bitter taste of regret swirling nauseously in her stomach. They were her demons, risen from the cluttered corners of a heart full of secrets. Mommy Ella's voice trembled, then grew faint under the weight of shadows. "Do you really know me? Do you know the truth?" The question hit Sarah like a thunderbolt. It pierced the veil of rejection she'd draped over herself for so long. She struggled, vision blurring, tears welling as breath caught in her throat. What truth could a mother harbor when her intentions had always been wrapped in fear? "I will not listen." Sarah lashed out, but the darkness burrowed deeper into the cracks of her resolve. The shadows twisted, contorting into shapes that morphed into familiar faces, people she had failed, a father with weary eyes, a sister consumed by bitter loneliness. The ghosts of her past danced around her, taunting her with every misstep and every choice that led her to this moment. Sarah the caregiver's gentle voice rolled through the dark like a well-worn lullaby. "Remember who you are." Fractured memories sparked within her, flooding her with warmth. For every failure, there had been moments of laughter, of joy. It felt unreal, yet undeniable. Would recalling them help her break the spell? "Get out. Leave her alone." Sarah's voice echoed into the abyss, desperate and unyielding, the knife now heavy with purpose, but the shadows merely laughed, their laughter rising into a crescendo, mocking her with a mixture of derision and sympathy. "You think this is strength? It is a weakness boundless, relentless. Your love has only added more darkness." The ground beneath her feet quaked violently, dimming the remnants of light. Ella's figure dimmed again, and a deep-rooted panic clawed at Sarah's chest. "I need you," she screamed. "You are my lifeline. Fight with me." Mommy Ella's voice was now a ghostly whisper, barely audible. "You're the one who has to fight." In that moment, something inside Sarah snapped. She could do this, she would do this. Her love was more powerful than any darkness. It was an anchor, a flame in the tempest, a reminder that she was a mother, forged not only of fear but also of resilience and fierce love. Enough. The rage ignited a fierce fire in her. "You do not get to take her from me. I reject you. I am reclaiming my truth." The shadows writhed in discomfort, the crushing weight unraveling as a surge of light burst forth from her heart. Reality shimmered and the abyss trembled in response. Yet, just as the darkness began to recede, a chilling voice slipped through the crevice. "You think you can reject your past? You've only begun to unravel the true horror. With every choice you make, the shadows evolve. And so must you." An elaborate web of shadows stretched, twisting the very fabric of their existence, revealing deeper horrors that lurked just beyond their sight. Sarah stared into the incoming darkness, a fractured heart waging war against a new layer of terror. "What do you mean? What else can I face?" But before she could brace herself, a slithering shadow transformed, merging with the fabric of time itself, and innocence shattered like glass. What awaited them? Was it the truth she feared, or was it something even darker? The echoes of the abyss swirled, tantalizing, as the next phase of their confrontation loomed ominously ahead. The shadows writhed and twisted, inching closer to both Sarah and Ella, threatening to engulf their existence completely. The weight of despair bore down on Sarah, but she remained resolute. The power of her love burned brightly, illuminating the depths of her heart. Every pang of guilt, every regret, surged through her inner strength, rekindling the light that had dimmed for so long. "You can't take her. She shouted into the dark, her voice steady and fierce. As the oppressive darkness pressed against her, she felt herself shifting. The embrace of shadows entwined tightly, yet amidst it all, a sliver of clarity dawned. Just as she had fought to save Ella from the clutches of despair, she understood that she couldn't just protect her from the dark, they needed to face it together. Ella, listen. We have to confront this as one. She called, her heart swelling with fierce determination. Together. Ella echoed, her voice a tiny spark of hope amidst the chaos. We can do it, Mommy. Fueled by that bond, Sarah held the knife with renewed conviction, charging straight for the heart of the shadows. It swirled around her, clawing for any weaknesses, but she steeled her will, remembering every moment that had shaped her into the mother she was today. You may have taken my light for years, but today, I reclaim it. With a primal scream, she plunged the knife into the inky darkness. The blade sliced through the fabric of despair, unleashing a shockwave of light that exploded outward. For an instant, everything froze. Shadows screamed in agony as the light expanded, banishing their touch. The air crackled and hummed, resonating with energy, burning away the veil that had cloaked her life in suffocating fear. In that radiant brilliance, Sarah glimpsed every cherished moment: a laughter-filled picnic, cuddles on the couch, Ella's smile illuminating the darkest corners of her heart. We are more than our shadows. She shouted, claiming the brightness within. The darkness roared, a cacophony of voices rising to warn, to threaten. You cannot escape what lies within. But Sarah didn't falter. Instead, she grabbed hold of those shadows, the ones that had once haunted her each night, and channeled them. The weight of her past, the burdens of regret, transformed from threats into something she could wield. I accept you. She cried, heart racing as she felt the darkness unfurl. You are a part of my story, but you do not define it. Ella's laughter filled the air, emboldening Sarah further as they wove through the shadows together. Both terrified and exhilarated, they charged, the knife glimmering as it danced between specters of her past mistakes and her love for her daughter. The shadows writhed and shuddered, desperately trying to reclaim their hold, but Sarah's resolve carved a path. Then it happened, an eruption of light that cascaded through the attic. The darkness screamed, twisting grotesquely as the shadows shrank into themselves, bound by the brilliance of a mother's love. Tear-filled eyes met Ella's, the connection surged between them, an unbreakable bond forged in truth, in acceptance, in light. Finally, the last whisper dissipated, leaving behind only echoes of silence. The attic, once a prison of shadows, transformed into a sanctuary, light streaming in through the window, illuminating the dust motes swirling like tiny celestial bodies. We did it! Ella shouted, joy radiating from her small frame. Sarah knelt and enveloped her daughter in a fierce hug, the weight of fear lifted and replaced with a sense of peace. I'm so proud of you, my brave girl, she whispered, her voice shaky yet full of warmth. As they pulled back, the remnants of the past swirled away, whispers of lost memories fading into a stillness they could finally embrace. With a gradual smile spreading across her face, Sarah felt hope blossom inside her heart. They could build a new life, anchored in the light they had fought so desperately to reclaim. Let us go home, Ella, she said softly, running her fingers through her daughter's hair, but more than a house, it could finally be a home, a space for love, laughter, and resilience. As they descended the stairs together, shadows lingering only as distant memories, they stepped into the future unburdened, ready to face whatever came next with courage. And as they stepped outside, the world felt fresh and new, the air alive with possibility. Now is the moment to show your support. If you love this conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately to this channel so you never miss future exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more amazing fans like you. Don't hesitate, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what just happened. And make sure to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.